If you believe that making anything work better takes regular attention, then you believe it for your own practice. Doing a periodic practice assessment is healthy and worth it, but where do you start and what do you focus on? Well, my guest today helps his clients do practice assessments, among other services, and he's going to answer these questions for us. I'm Carl White, principal at Market Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency and also the host of Practice Care. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. It's usually what they want, but care is better when it's the providers of care who own the practice, because all the decisions that they have to make, clinical, business, whatever it is, you know what they have to do right after they make those decisions? They got to turn around and take care of a patient. So we can feel really, really confident that the needs of patients are always top of mind. My guest today is David Zetter. David is the founder and president of Zetter HealthCare in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and has over 24 years of operational and healthcare experience. David is nationally recognized for his speaking, presentations, and healthcare business expertise. He's well-versed in regulatory requirements, revenue cycle management, credentialing and contracting, compliance, and coding and documentation. He's considered an expert on Medicare, not only by his clients, but also through consultant colleagues and healthcare attorneys across the country. He's an expert on ERISA regulations, which protect over 80% of the claims in the U.S., and he knows how to stop payer recoupments dead in their tracks and what is legal and illegal in many payer contracts. We've done a previous episode on that. You really should listen to that if any of that caught your attention. His firm works with healthcare professional clients and facilities coast to coast in all areas of practice and facility management. Welcome back, David, for yet another episode of Practice Care.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it.
I have lost count of how many we've done, and we're not done yet. But for those who haven't heard of you or haven't heard of a different episode or a previous episode, fill in the gaps in your bio. Tell us more about you and Zetter HealthCare.
Well, we've been doing this for nearly 30 years. Started out way back in around the year 2000, actually beginning of year 2000. Basically took over the consulting services for a healthcare accounting and consulting firm, built up the business, split off, and we've been doing it ever since. We built the business into 16 people around the country. We work in all 56 U.S. territories, all specialties, all provider types, all practice types. We do medical, we don't do dental. We stick to what we know. And we basically provide all the answers to the business of healthcare for our clients. We are the answer people.
Very good.
So that's what we do.
All right. And we're going to get into some of those today. So the topic is the 101 of a practice assessment. So the basics of a practice assessment. When you and I were talking about this before we started, you talked about it as finding the inefficiencies and removing them. Why do you go there when you think about a practice assessment?
Well, for the most part, when somebody wants to understand, whether they're doing things correctly, where the holes are that they need to plug in their business, and so on, we suggest doing a practice assessment because it basically assesses all areas of your business, literally from patient and information scheduling all the way through to billing, collection, and fees, financial management, compliance and risk management, personnel management, medical records, patient relations, marketing, managed care, facility and equipment. We review all of that, all aspects of it. So normally what we would do is we'd really try to understand, we ask the main question every time: what keeps you up at night? We want to know what bothers the owners, because those are the biggest concerns, and those are the areas we want to ensure that we address, let alone all the other areas that they may not be aware of.
Sure.
So what we normally do is we request an awful lot of information and documentation first: financials, income statements, balance sheets, depreciation schedules, all of that, billing reports. We're going to go in and analyze their claims. We're going to do a lot of footwork before we ever hit the ground at the practice location, because a true practice assessment is going to need to be done in a manner where you're looking at a lot of data, first off, because that's going to help us understand what questions we need to ask and what we need to look for.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get on site, we're observing, and depending on how many locations the patients are seen and treated. I mean, for instance, if you got a practice that does off-site services, let's say they go to hospitals and round in hospitals or do ICUs, how do you collect that revenue? How do you track it? How do you ensure you capture all of it? What is your process? What's the system in place? Where are all the inefficiencies? So maybe some of your listeners have heard of Lean Six Sigma, and that's all about looking at your business, your operation, whatever it is that you're looking at, and understanding where all the inefficiencies are and literally removing every one of those inefficiencies.
Okay.
Perfecting the practice, the systems, the processes.
Right.
You don't need training to do that. You just need to understand, hey, where are the inefficiencies? Where are things breaking down? Where are you losing money? Where are you losing staff? Where are things not going properly or operating properly? And then reviewing it, understanding it, and seriously introducing changes that are going to remove those inefficiencies, make things better, achieve the goal that you set out to achieve to begin with when you set up that process. So what are the things that are causing the inefficiencies? You end up removing them, but you've got to analyze the entire process to see, is this what we meant to do or is it not?
Right.
And if it isn't, let's get rid of it and change it.
I wonder,
and figure out what you need to do to make sure those inefficiencies don't occur again.
Right. You'd said, what keeps you up at night? Do you ever hear like common answers? Are there like a few themes that you just kind of repeatedly hear?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were just talking with a practice that has come on board, and we're going to do a revenue cycle assessment for them. But they basically, the owner basically said, what keeps me up at night is knowing that I'm losing money every single day. I don't know where, I don't know how much, but I know I am. So how do I figure that out? How do I fix that?
Yeah.
Because we need to be generating as much revenue and profit as we can, because nowadays running any business in today's atmosphere, financial atmosphere, you've got to collect every dollar and every dime you possibly can.
Sure. Yeah, like they never say, I think what keeps me up at night is my revenue cycle feels broken. No, it's like I'm losing money somewhere. I know it, but I just can't find it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is that like the major, I guess that would make sense if that's the major theme, but do you ever hear any other?
Well, yeah. And then another one that concerned them was all about their succession planning. I mean, they've got older physicians. They know they're going to lose 2 or 3 of them in the next year or two. And yet they're having a very difficult time recruiting physicians and replacing them. Okay. So they don't know what to do to fix that. Yeah. And, they have some morale issues with staff. So they're trying to understand what are the issues and how do we fix this?
Yeah.
So, those are 2 of the main things they want to figure out. And we'll help them. We're going to do the revenue cycle assessment first. But then from the standpoint on their, succession planning, we'll try to address what their issues are. Why do they have morale issues? What is it that's bothering people? What are the issues that keep all their staff up at night? What will make them happier? What makes them a better employer? So we need to figure all that out and help them understand what they can do differently in order to get all that fixed.
Right. And so the good place to start is whatever the keep them up at night issue is, probably, right?
Yeah, for the most part. We really want to understand. They contacted us for some reason. We want to find out what those reasons are. So first off, why'd you contact us? What are your concerns? What are you worried about? So let's find out straight from the horse's mouth what their concerns are, and let's make sure we address those, let alone everything else we're going to find.
Right.
Because you can't hide information once you start digging into it. You can't hide the processes that don't work. As long as you have your eyes open and you're observing and you're listening, you're looking at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. I mean, sure, you can plug in any numbers you want, but
Right.
if they don't add up, it's pretty easy to tell.
Right.
So, really assessing things, benchmarking it, you got to have an idea on what is expected. So, no different with the NFCHBC. We've got statistics on every specialty. If you're running a primary care practice or even an internal medicine practice, and your revenue isn't where it should be based on the number of providers you have, let's figure out why. Do you have a provider that's not, internal medicine or primary care? You should be seeing somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 patients a day in order to generate the revenue that you're going to need to stay open and to be a viable business.
Yeah.
So if they aren't seeing that, well, where is the bottleneck at? What's causing that provider not to see so many patients? Is it the scheduling? Are they setting aside 20 minutes for, a follow-up patient? Should it be 15? I mean, what is actually needed? And it's going to be different with each provider based on how they operate their encounter, how they document, and so on. So it's really just understanding each individual situation or each process and evaluating it. But you've got to know what the right numbers are. So if, a 4-provider primary care practice is only producing, 1.2 million in top line revenue a year, there's a problem.
There's a problem. Yeah.
So what is it? Let's start looking at each provider's, build a profit and loss statement for each provider, and let's figure out where the issues are.
Yeah.
How many patients are they seeing a day? How much average collection is being received from each office visit? Things like that. Compare it to other providers in the practice.
Right.
Benchmark it against statistics. You'll get your answers. Then you just have to figure out, okay, what are the answers to the questions that are causing the issues?
Yeah.
You have to know those answers. So if you don't know that, you need to get somebody that's an expert that does and can help you come up with those answers and then implement those changes to fix it.
How often when you go in do you find more stuff that, was
Every
not,
time.
I figured,
Every time.
and then I'm wondering, like, what separates, and then you, doctor, we've been investigating issue A, as you asked, but we found issues B, C, and D. What separates those in your experience from those who say, let's go look at B, C, and D also versus, look, just stay on A. We'll deal with that.
What we normally do is once we complete an assessment, we build a report. Now, I already tell the practices, look, I'm happy to complete an assessment. But if all we're going to do is build you a report, tell you what the problems are, and you're not going to implement any of those changes, I have no interest in doing an assessment on your practice. I'm not interested in building a report that's going to sit on a desk and not collect dust. If you want to fix your practice, we're here to help you. If all you want is a report to tell you what's wrong, and then you eventually don't do anything about it, go find somebody else to build your report for you. Yes, we can take your money, but that's not going to accomplish anything. Right. And that's not what I want to do. I want to see you smiling after we're done with this report and we implement those changes to achieve the goals that you intended us to achieve when you contacted us. So that's the goal. And then we provide them the feedback on what our findings are. We make recommendations on what needs to be done to fix it. And then we stand ready to help them fix it and implement it and execute it.
Right. But while you're in there, so you're working on, revenue cycle, but while you're in there, you discover other issues that are, loosely or not really related. I'm wondering, like, just the mindset of those, what you experience on those who say, you know what, you're here, let's go after those other issues too, versus those who say, I just want to stay on why I called you in.
Well, we provide them that report, and then we start prioritizing what needs to be done. Obviously, the client ultimately makes the decision on what work's going to get completed.
True.
We will strategize with them and give them an idea on what we believe should be done first. normally we recommend anything that's going to produce either additional income or profits. We want to do that first. And the whole reason is so that they can afford to pay for the additional services to fix the other things that aren't going to generate additional revenue or profit.
Mm-hmm.
So no different than, even fixing morale. Is that going to generate more profit? Possibly.
Probably, you would think. Hard to measure, but you would think.
It all depends on what it is. So we try to evaluate the issues at hand and then prioritize which ones we're going to address and when.
Okay.
So that we can generate additional revenue for them to pay for those additional services.
Got it. Okay.
And then the client will ultimately make the decision on what we're actually going to do and when.
Okay.
And if we disagree, we'll communicate that we disagree. But ultimately, the client is the boss.
Understood.
And if we completely disagree with what the game plan should be, it could possibly mean that we terminate the relationship because we don't agree with the process and we don't want to spend money whereby the client may be upset that it's not doing anything. They're not going to see a return on their investment. And the whole idea is that if you're going to spend money to upgrade and fix your practice, you want to see it upgraded and fixed.
Right.
So you need to see a return on your investment. Otherwise, why spend the money?
Yeah. How often do you find that the staff are sort of prepared, on board, ready to go and help versus not? It just strikes me that you're going to be interacting with more than just the doctors on these assessments. Correct. And they can, what do you see when it goes well versus when it doesn't go well when it comes to this?
Well, most often, a lot of people don't know much about our involvement and what we're doing until we get on site.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
More often than not, the administrator knows. Other staff may know, like billing and so on, because we're going to request reports. We're going to get into their systems, things like that. The main thing that we want to communicate up front is we are not the terminator. We're not here to cut jobs, wipe people out, replace people. That is not the intent. That is not even a thought that enters our mind. Mm-hmm. That's not the job. Mm-hmm. If we have to replace somebody, we may figure that out down the road because that may be a bad apple that needs to be replaced. Mm-hmm. And that may come out sometime down the road during the assessment. But that is not our intent at all. We let staff know immediately up front, we are not here to replace anybody's job or to replace anybody. Mm-hmm. We are here to fix the practice. So we are here to evaluate things, support you, help you do your job better, give you tools and resources to help you do that, mm-hmm. and support you the entire way. If we determine that you don't have knowledge that you need to have, then we need to find a way to get you that knowledge. Mm-hmm. That's our job, to help you do your job better so it improves the practice overall. And we want to mention that up front because everybody thinks you're a hitman ready to replace people when a consultant comes on site.
That's why I asked.
And 99% of the time, that is not true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we want to set them at ease so that they will work with us and make sure they understand we're here to support you in your business and in your job. And we need to know what you like about your job, what you dislike about it, what you need to do your job better, and where you think things are falling short in order for you to do a great job. Mm-hmm. And let's get all that feedback from every single employee, mm-hmm. because we're going to interview every single one of them. And that's going to help us. And then you need to have done this often enough to decide which things you're going to listen to and let go out the other ear, because there are some things that are going to be told to you that don't make any sense, don't apply, and aren't true. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you have to understand how to weed that information out. And then what is true and what actually affects the practice. And that's what you need to address. Mm-hmm. So all the stuff that is just the fluff or the chafe that you need to kind of get out, and remove, you need to understand that, and you need to have done this plenty of times to recognize that straight away so that you're not wasting time on those things.
Yeah. How often should you redo one? You think about, like, we get an annual exam, we get our, teeth cleaned and checked twice a year. There's like, get our oil changed every 4,000 miles. Like, once something is up and working better, you need to keep it that way. What do you recommend, like, makes sense for check-ins and
Constant annual maintenance.
Yeah,
You
maintenance.
always have to follow up on it. So let's put it this way. So let's say you've got your revenue cycle process. And let's say right now you're in a practice that doesn't have an assignment of benefits signed by every single patient, which is the only thing that gives you the right to bill a patient's insurance and to collect from that insurance. If you don't have that AOB signed, a properly drafted AOB, you have no right to do any of that.
Wow.
And that's federal law. So if you don't have that, then let's say we need to update your financial policy that patients sign, and we need to implement it and execute it. Well, how do we know it's still being done properly since we implemented it 3 months ago?
How often do you find that? You go back, you're like, seriously, people? Do you find that?
Who's providing the oversight? Is anybody following up on it? Once you implement it, doesn't mean that it's going to go right every single day.
True.
So how often are you following up to make sure, every week you should go through a couple of charts, verify that the front desk staff is having the AOB signed by every single patient. Doesn't mean you need to check every single patient's chart on the schedule for last week.
Sure.
It just means you need to check 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then do it again next week. And then if you see that every single chart that you're reviewing is done, then maybe you need to do it a little less often, but you still need to do it. Otherwise, somebody starts getting lazy, they stop doing it. 6 months from now, hey, I'm going to follow up now because I haven't followed up in 6 months. Let's see if it's being done. Then all of a sudden it's not being done. Now you're out of compliance again. And do you want to risk being asked by United HealthCare or Blue Cross Blue Shield, hey, give me all your money back because you don't have a valid assignment of benefits signed? So, I mean, those are the types of things. You've got to follow up. You've got to provide oversight. So that's why even on an assessment, you're not going to implement every single recommendation all at once.
Yeah.
You've got to implement it strategically, have some vision, have some foresight, implement it properly, follow up, provide oversight, and continue providing oversight, even though that oversight may be reduced as time goes on, because now everybody's trained, everybody's educated, and you don't have to follow up as often.
Yeah. We measure what we manage. We manage what we measure,
Exactly. And you cannot manage anything that you do not measure.
Correct. And in this case, the measurement is the spot checks of, are the proper forms filled out in
Correct.
this case. Yeah. In this case. Anything we missed? We covered a lot, as we always do, but on this topic, anything you think we should have hit on that we didn't get to?
Well, it's, just make sure that when you're doing a practice assessment, my recommendation is if you've never done a practice assessment, it would probably behoove every single practice in this country.
Yeah.
Does it need to be done every year? Absolutely not. Once you do it once, if it's done properly, you've got all your information. Now, that doesn't mean that something else can all of a sudden pop up 5 years down the road that wasn't even addressed in the original assessment.
Of course.
I mean, you may have had turnover, you may have a new employee, they may have brought some bad habits into the practice. Who knows? So maybe you just need to do a little follow-up every so often. Maybe have whoever conducted your assessment originally come back in 5 years from now and just do a follow-up assessment. Let's do a spot check on things. Let's, observe some things and see, okay, do we still have some pain points? What are they? How do we remove those pain points? So it's just about constantly following up, constantly providing oversight, and keeping your eyes open and recognize that there are still issues. There are always issues in a business.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
They never go away.
It's true.
Some of them will, but then you will have new ones you need to worry about.
Yeah.
So you always have to provide oversight. You've got to keep your eyes open. You've got to keep your ears open, and don't just ignore something, even though it may be hearsay. You
Yeah.
may overhear two employees talking about something. You may think nothing about it, but to those two employees, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do to address it so that morale gets
Yeah.
improved? Okay. So those are the things I'm suggesting. Provide the oversight, have people keeping an eye on things, maybe even assigning certain people in the practice. If you got plenty of owners, a lot of owners will address, one of them will be charged in operations, one of them in charge of HR,
Yeah.
one of them in charge of facilities and maintenance.
Yeah.
And then they can address those things on their own, and they don't have to worry about the entire business.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they have decision-making authority up to a certain amount of money so that they can make decisions and fix things when they need to. But if it's going to cost 10 grand, maybe we need to bring it to the board meeting and have more people make a decision on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are many ways to manage this, but you just ultimately need to run your business effectively, efficiently. And to do that, you need to have systems and processes in place.
What do you say to those who say, well, one of two things, we just don't have time, or I just don't think we need it? I mean, I think of it as, well, if you tell your patients to get regular checkups, then I think you should eat your own cooking. But like, what do you say to those?
Well, we're all human beings. If you never go to the doctor, you never know what's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you never do a practice assessment, you never know what's going on in your business.
Mm-hmm.
All humans go to the doctor every once in a while for a checkup. I mean, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, you may end up having a problem you're not aware of, and who knows, next week you keel over and die. Do you want your business doing that? My suggestion would be is that you conduct a practice assessment, you put some systems in place for people to watch it, and then you follow up every once in a while and surround yourself with an expert or experts that are going to help you keep an eye on things. You only pay them when they have to do the work, but they're experts at what they do, whether it's a practice assessment or even financials, that they can help you evaluate and bring you up,
Yeah.
build you up. That's what the job of an expert or an advisor is, to help you improve your business and to bring about a return on investment. If your advisor is not giving you an ROI, or you're not recognizing an ROI from somebody advising you, then maybe it's time to look at hiring a different advisor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say, the best, most accomplished, smartest business people in the world know what you just said, which is there's always an issue. Things can always be better. Presume it's all humming along smooth forever at your own pace. It just doesn't work that way. It's inevitable. It doesn't work that way. It never does. And the other thing they say is, well, if I believe that, why would I wait for a problem to actually show itself? I mean, why don't we go after things before they, why am I going to wait for Blue Cross to call me up and say, you've been collecting money illegally for the past 6 months and we want it all back in 10 days. Why would I wait for that to actually happen?
Oh, that's why as well, when Blue Cross Blue Shield sends you a request for a bunch of records, are you just going to send them and wait for them to tell you what's going on? Why wouldn't you audit them first to figure out what the problem is, what the problem may be, so you can address it before you send everything to Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Exactly. Like, why would you do this? Yes. Why would you do it? And again, the most successful companies in the history of the world know this, and they're always on the lookout. Now, what do they do about what they find? They prioritize it, of course, whatever. But they don't ever presume, oh my God, we are on autopilot forever. Our strength never to be touched. Doesn't work that way. So,
well, you just mentioned a good thing. We're on autopilot. So it's kind of no different than Barbara and I are in the car the other day, and here I am driving along, and I'm headed down the highway in the wrong direction because I'm thinking I'm going to the same place I did the other day. And she says, well, I wasn't going to mention anything, but I noticed you were going in the wrong direction. I said, yeah, I'm on autopilot.
Yeah.
I mean, autopilot's not going to get you to where you want.
It's not your friend.
Not unless you were headed in that same place that you did before, that you were on autopilot.
Yep. Yep.
So give yourself a map, GPS, whatever. That way, where you want to go, you know you're going to end up.
In fact, when I worked in large corporate, most of our products were reimbursed by one government insurance scheme or another. And listeners, you all know reimbursement doesn't really ever go up unless you can negotiate something, but your expenses sure will. So if your expenses go up every year at a rate that's faster than your revenues, well, then you've got a little something to deal with there, don't you? I guess you can absorb it, you can try, or you can try to get more efficient and figure out how to change things. I mean,
Exactly.
hopefully we've done some convincing here. So don't wait for the problem. And, if you would tell your patients, I think we should see you more regularly, you got to eat your own cooking. I mean, if you're really honest with yourself, where should somebody get started? David, is it just like, I should like the real, just the look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, we just, who the hell do I think I am already? Let's just hear what somebody has to say. I say this to my clients all the time. Talk to the guy. Just hear what he has to say. I mean, open your mind.
It doesn't cost anything to have an initial consultation.
Yeah. Just hear what he has to say.
I mean, where you start, you just got to recognize if you've got some things that keep you up at night about your medical practice or your medical business, whatever type it is, find somebody that is an expert at that process and have them take a look.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would suggest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can end up being a huge job, but maybe you just want a revenue cycle assessment versus an entire practice assessment.
Mm-hmm.
You can take and assess certain aspects of your business and not have to do the entire organization.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's only so much you can bite off at one time anyway. So
true.
And do it well. So yeah. Cool. Well, David, once again, thank you. Thanks for coming on Practice Care. Always interesting stuff. Always interesting stuff. You've given us contact information. We've got that in the show notes for this episode. So listeners, if you want to get a hold of Zetter HealthCare or David, you now can find that contact information in our place too. Couple of points before we wrap up. First, if you're like David or us and you serve private practice owners, or you're one yourself and you've got some experience on the business side of private practice that others would benefit from, don't overthink what that is. Something you think is boring and who would care? And of course they figured it out. No, they haven't. They're struggling with it, but you have. So in the show notes for every episode, there's a link, a couple of clicks. Tell us what's on your mind, what that experience is, and we'll get you scheduled as soon as possible. And finally, subscribe to Practice Care. Why haven't you subscribed to Practice Care already? It's one word. It's easy to find. New episode every week. Great episodes like this. All this good advice for free from people who really know what they're talking about. So subscribe so you can stay up to date on every new episode. Thanks very much. And until next time.